Roots of the storm. The storm came without warning, tearing through the horizon as the wind howled like a creature unleashed from the deepest corners of the earth. Lightning flashed and cracked across the sky, a dance of raw power. The storm was no ordinary storm. It carried with it a strange, unsettling feeling, an energy that spoke of more than just nature's fury. It was the kind of storm that didn't just shake the trees, it seemed to shake the very world itself. At the edge of a dense forest, there was a clearing where the wind's wrath had already begun its work. The trees around the clearing were young, their trunks still thin, their branches brittle. They had barely begun to grow, to stretch toward the sky. And yet, here they were, standing alone against an unstoppable force. The storm came upon them like a beast on the hunt, and one by one, the trees began to bend under the pressure. But there was something unusual about this particular forest. Among the trees, there stood one tree, different from the others. It was taller, its roots thicker, its branches wide and far-reaching. It had seen storms before and weathered them with strength and resilience. Its roots ran deep into the earth, entwining with the soil in a way that made it nearly impossible to uproot. It stood strong as the others began to falter. Its name was Jorath, and he had seen many years in this forest, and his wisdom ran deep into the earth. As the storm raged, a flash of lightning illuminated the clearing, and Jorath saw something he hadn't noticed before, another tree, even younger than the rest, struggling against the wind. Its trunk was fragile, its leaves barely hanging on. The storm had taken everything from it. It was about to fall. Jorath could feel its panic, its helplessness, and as it was about to give way to the wind, he reached out with his roots, anchoring himself to the young tree. For a moment, the force of the wind pulled them both, but Jorath held firm. His roots sank deeper into the earth, and with a sudden surge of strength, he pulled the other tree back from the brink. The young tree gasped, feeling the connection, feeling the force of Jorath's strength. It was then that Jorath realized he wasn't alone. There were others, other trees, other roots reaching toward him, desperate to survive. They knew that they needed to hold on together. They needed each other if they were to stand through the storm. And so, as the wind howled and the sky cracked, Jorath reached out to every tree in the clearing, his roots intertwining with theirs. The young trees, once weak and afraid, felt the steady strength of Jorath, and together they held firm. But it wasn't just the storm that threatened them. In the darkness of the forest, there were whispers. Whispers that spoke of something far older, something hidden deep within the earth. Something that had been waiting for the right moment to awaken. In the heart of the storm, a figure emerged. She was not of the forest, but she knew it intimately. Her name was Alira, and she had come to the forest to find something. To find a way to break the ancient curse that had bound her family for generations. The curse that had been placed upon them long before the first tree had taken root. The curse that had led her family to become hollow beings, their hearts lost to the darkness. Alira had come to find the source of the curse. She believed the answer lay in the heart of the forest, in the roots of the oldest tree. But the storm had other plans. As she made her way through the forest, the winds pushed against her, as though the storm was warning her, telling her to turn back. But Alira was determined. She had to find the truth. And that's when she saw him, Jorath. At first, she didn't recognize him. But there was something about the way his roots intertwined with the others, the way he stood so strong against the storm. She had heard the stories, of course, stories of the great tree, the one who could weave the fate of the forest with his roots. And now, standing before him, she understood. He wasn't just a tree. He was something more. "Help me," Alira whispered. Her voice was carried away by the wind, but Jorath heard her. He knew her, too, though not in the way she might have expected. He had felt her presence long before she had ever entered the forest. The roots of the trees had whispered her name. "I cannot help you," Jorath said, his voice not a sound, but a deep, resonating feeling within the very earth. "Not until you understand." Alira's heart raced. She had come for a reason, a purpose, but she hadn't expected this. "Understand what?" she asked, confusion clouding her mind. "You are not alone in this forest," Jorath said. "Not even I am alone. The trees are not just trees, Alira. We are part of something greater, a force that binds us all together. We are roots of the same storm." The words sent a chill down Alira's spine. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The curse you seek to break," Jorath said, his roots stirring in the ground, "is not just a curse on your family. It is a curse on us all. We were bound together long ago by an ancient force, and now the storm has come, and it is up to us to decide how we survive it." Alira's breath caught in her throat. The storm raged louder around them, the wind howling as though it had a life of its own. "How do we survive it?" she asked. "Together," Jorath said. "We must intertwine our roots, just as the trees did. We must become one." As the storm reached its peak, Alira felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. The storm raged on, but she could feel the strength of Jorath's roots, the way they reached deep into the earth, binding the forest together. And in that moment, she understood. The curse that had plagued her family was not a curse at all. It was a test to see if they could learn to stand together, to entwine their roots, and become stronger for it. The storm began to die down. The wind slowed, the thunder faded, and the lightning no longer cracked the sky. But something had changed. The trees stood taller, their roots intertwined, their strength multiplied. And Alira stood at the heart of the forest, no longer alone, but a part of something much greater. As the last remnants of the storm passed, Alira looked up at Jorath, the great tree who had led her to this understanding. She could feel the power of the forest, the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, and for the first time in her life, she felt at peace. The curse had been broken, not by magic or by force, but by unity. The trees, the earth, and even Alira, together, they had weathered the storm. And as the sun began to rise, the storm's remnants fading into the horizon, Alira understood that she no longer needed to search for an answer. The answer had been with her all along. The roots had spoken, and they had shown her the way. The storm was over, and together they would face whatever came next. The trees stood firm, and so did Alira.
Whispering echoes.